Picture, if you will, a small pink sphere, round and soft, with rosy cheeks and wide, innocent eyes the color of a clear blue sky. This is Kirby, a character who appears at first glance to be nothing more than Nintendo's answer to childhood comfort, a plush toy come to life, designed to charm and delight. He floats through cotton candy clouds, lives in a land called Dreamland, and his greatest known pleasure seems to be eating. Everything about him, from his stubby arms to his cheerful waddle, suggests sweetness, simplicity, and harmlessness. And yet, beneath this exterior of pure innocence lies something that defies expectation, something vast, something that has, time and again, stood against the dissolution of reality itself and emerged victorious. While Mario jumps through kingdoms and Link wields sacred blades, Kirby has quietly dismantled gods, absorbed cosmic horrors, and punched through planets with the casual ease of someone reaching for another slice of cake. Tonight, as we settle into this exploration together, we will trace the threads of Kirby's story, not with urgency or excitement, but with the slow, patient curiosity one might bring to examining stars. We will look closely at what makes this pink puffball not just powerful, but perhaps the most powerful being Nintendo has ever created. Not through intimidation or menace, but through a gentle, infinite capacity that exists in harmony with kindness itself. The contradiction is beautiful in its way. Kirby is simultaneously the embodiment of joy and the answer to extinction-level threats. He is both the friend who shares his adventures with others and the singular force capable of defeating malevolent deities. This duality, this impossible balance between adorable and apocalyptic, is what makes Kirby's story so endlessly fascinating. When we think of power in video games, we often imagine towering figures draped in armor, wielding weapons forged from fallen stars. We think of dark backstories, of training montages, of sacrifices made in the pursuit of strength. Kirby requires none of these trappings. He simply is. His power does not seem to be earned through suffering or fueled by vengeance. It exists as naturally as breathing, as fundamental to his being as his pink coloration or his ability to float on puffs of air. Consider the worlds Kirby protects. Dreamland, at first hearing, sounds like a place from a children's book, and in many ways, it is. It is a realm of whimsy, where the sun and moon have faces, where food grows on trees in impossible varieties, where the very ground seems softer and kinder than the earth we know. It is a place where one might expect adventures to be gentle, conflicts to be resolved with friendship, and dangers to be no more threatening than a stubbed toe. But Dreamland, as we will discover, sits at the center of something far larger. It is a nexus point, a place where the boundaries between dimensions grow thin, where ancient forces stir in their sleep, where the fabric of reality itself has been torn and mended more times than its inhabitants can remember. And standing guard over all of it, often while taking a nap or enjoying a picnic, is Kirby. The Japanese creators of Kirby, primarily Masahiro Sakurai, who brought this character to life in 1992, understood something profound about design. They understood that making a character cute does not diminish their capacity for greatness. In fact, it enhances it. The contrast between appearance and capability creates a kind of magic, a subversion of expectations that delights precisely because it catches us off guard. We underestimate Kirby the same way his enemies do, and that underestimation is itself part of the story. In Western storytelling, we often separate the cute from the powerful. Our heroes grow grim and weathered as they grow strong. They trade smiles for scars, laughter for determination. But Kirby represents a different philosophy entirely, one more common in certain strains of Japanese media. The idea that true strength need not announce itself, that power and gentleness can exist in the same space. that the mightiest protector might also be the kindest friend. Throughout this exploration, we will journey through decades of games, from the original Kirby's Dream Land released on the Game Boy to the latest adventures on the Nintendo Switch. We will examine canonical encounters where Kirby has faced down threats that dwarf him 1,000 times over. We will look at the mechanics that make him unique, abilities no other Nintendo character possesses. We will consider the lore, scattered and subtle as it often is, that hints at Kirby's true nature. But more than facts and feats, we will try to understand what Kirby represents. In a medium often dominated by power fantasies and escalating conflicts, Kirby offers something different. The fantasy of being small and kind and absolutely unshakable. The dream that you need not become hard to survive hard things. The possibility that at the end of all darkness, there might be something simple and pink and cheerful, ready to face it with a smile. As we begin, let yourself sink into the journey. There is no rush. Kirby himself would not rush. He would take his time, perhaps stopping to examine an interesting rock or chase a butterfly, confident that whatever cosmic horror awaits can wait a moment longer. So too will we move through this story at a pace that honors both its whimsy and its weight. The tale of Kirby is, in many ways, the tale of Dreamland itself, a place where dreams and nightmares intersect, where the silly and the sublime exist side by side, where a small hero with an infinite stomach and an even bigger heart stands between existence and its end. It is a story that has unfolded across decades and dimensions, growing richer and stranger with each new installment, revealing layer after layer of hidden depth beneath its cheerful surface. So let us begin our slow drift through this story. Let us trace Kirby's path from a simple protagonist in a handheld adventure to something that transcends simple categorization. A being whose power is matched only by his capacity for joy, whose victories over darkness are all the more remarkable because he never allows that darkness to change him. In the quiet hours of night, when the world grows soft around the edges and sleep beckons, these are the stories worth savoring. Stories of unexpected heroes and impossible triumphs, of kindness that cannot be broken, and smiles that outlast the void itself. Stories, quite simply, about Kirby. And as we will see, there are few stories quite as remarkable as his. To understand Kirby's power, we must first understand his beginning, or, more accurately, the mystery of his beginning. For Kirby's origins remain deliberately enigmatic even after 3 decades of games. The original Kirby's Dream Land, released in 1992 for the Game Boy, introduced us to the character with almost no backstory whatsoever. One day, Kirby simply was. He lived in Dreamland, a peaceful realm on the planet Popstar, and when King Dedede stole all the food from the land, Kirby set out to retrieve it. That was all the explanation we were given, and it seemed sufficient at the time. After all, many early video game characters simply existed without origin stories. Mario was a plumber who fought a turtle dragon. Link was an elf boy with a sword. Kirby was a pink ball who liked food. But as the series expanded and its lore grew more complex, the absence of a clear origin story became itself significant. While we learned the histories of Dreamland, of King Dedede, of Meta Knight, and the various locations Kirby would visit, Kirby himself remained a blank slate, a being without a past, or perhaps with a past too vast and strange to easily explain. We know that Kirby lives in a small house on the outskirts of Dreamland, a structure so simple it is barely more than a toy block representation of domesticity. We know he is young, though we do not know how young or what youth means for his species. We know he is good-natured, friendly, always willing to help, and possessed of an appetite that defies all logic or physics. But where did he come from? The games offer hints, scattered like seeds across their various entries, but never a complete answer. In Kirby. Right Back at Ya, the anime adaptation that aired from 2001 to 2003, Kirby arrives on a warp star as a baby, crash landing in Dreamland with no memory of where he came from. The residents of the land speculate that he might be a star warrior, an ancient race of heroes. While this anime has never been confirmed as canonical to the games, it provided a framework that many fans found compelling, offering one possible explanation for Kirby's mysterious arrival. The Star Warriors, in the anime's lore, were legendary heroes who fought against the demon beast Nightmare and his forces. They were powerful beings, each with unique abilities, led by the great warrior Meta Knight. The war against Nightmare devastated the universe, leaving only a few Star Warriors alive, scattered, and hidden. If Kirby is indeed a Star Warrior, perhaps the last of his kind, or the youngest, sent away to safety before some final battle, it would explain much about his abilities. But the games themselves remain coy. They show us other members of Kirby's species, or at least, beings that look like him. Meta Knight, when unmasked, appears to be the same species as Kirby, though with bat wings and a different color palette of dark blue. In Kirby's Dreamland. 3 in Kirby 64, we encounter other Kirby-like beings in various colors, suggesting that Kirby is not unique in form, even if he is unique in spirit. The planet Popstar itself has a long and storied history, one that predates Kirby by untold ages. It is a world of remarkable diversity, containing within itself realms of every description: lush forests and volcanic wastelands, candy-colored plains and mechanical cities, oceans and clouds, and everything in between. It is a world that seems almost too varied, as if it were assembled from pieces of many worlds, stitched together into something beautiful and strange. Long before Kirby's time, Popstar was protected by the Fountain of Dreams, a mystical wellspring located at the top of a great rainbow waterfall. The fountain produced the dreams of everyone on Popstar, feeding the population with peaceful visions each night. Guarding this fountain was the Star Rod, a powerful artifact that channeled the fountain's magic and kept nightmares at bay. This was the natural order, maintained for countless generations. Dreamland itself, where Kirby makes his home, appears to be the central region of Popstar, though other locations like Patchland, Ripplestar, and the various kingdoms Kirby visits in later games exist either on the same planet or connected to it through dimensional pathways. The cosmology of Kirby's universe is delightfully fluid, with locations appearing and disappearing, dimensions folding into one another, and space itself seeming more like a suggestion than a rule. Into this world of dreams and possibilities, Kirby arrived. Or perhaps Kirby was always there, a native son of Dreamland whose youth simply means no one remembers a time before him. The ambiguity is intentional, I think. It allows Kirby to be both an integral part of Popstar and somehow separate from it, an outsider who is also the ultimate insider, the defender who is also the innocent. What we can say with certainty is that Kirby possesses abilities that mark him as exceptional even among exceptional beings. His copy ability, the power to inhale enemies and absorb their capabilities, is unique to him. Neither Meta Knight nor any other character of similar species demonstrates this skill, suggesting that Kirby is not simply a member of a powerful race, but something special even by those standards. There are theories, of course, whispered in the corners of the lore. Some suggest that Kirby is a being of pure positive energy, created as a counterbalance to forces of darkness. Others propose that he is a weapon, designed by an ancient civilization to combat threats to reality itself, then left dormant until needed. Still others believe that Kirby is not created at all, but rather a natural phenomenon, a spontaneous manifestation of Popstar's collective desire for protection and joy given form and consciousness. The most intriguing theory, one that has gained significant traction based on evidence from recent games, relates to Void Termina, the final boss of Kirby Star Allies. Void Termina is described as the origin of all matter, an ancient being of primordial chaos that exists in all dimensions simultaneously. When defeated, Void's true form is revealed to bear a striking resemblance to Kirby himself, round and pink, with a smiling face. The pause screen descriptions, particularly in the original Japanese text, suggest that Void could have become anything, depending on the energy that influenced it. The Japanese descriptions indicate that Void is born as the origin of all chaotic possibilities, being matters of dream, dark, soul, or heart. These descriptions, while not stating it explicitly, seem to point toward a connection. Positive energy shaped by joy and friendship could have manifested as beings like Kirby, while negative energy shaped by loneliness and despair could have manifested as dark matter and other villains. The sounds Void makes during battle are notably similar to Kirby's own vocalizations, only slowed and deepened. If this interpretation holds, and the canonical evidence strongly supports it without definitively confirming it, then Kirby represents not simply power, but power given form and purpose by the positive feelings and hopes present at his creation. He would be creation's answer to destruction, joy's response to despair, the physical manifestation of the possibility that everything will be okay. This would help explain his limitless potential, his apparent immunity to corruption, and his essential goodness that remains constant regardless of what he faces or absorbs. Meta Knight's connection to Kirby adds another layer to this mystery. The masked warrior clearly knows more than he tells, watching over Kirby from a distance, occasionally testing him, sometimes helping him, always maintaining an air of knowing something the rest of us do not. In games like Kirby's Adventure and Kirby Superstar, Meta Knight acts as an antagonist, but his goals are never truly villainous. He tests Kirby, pushes him to grow stronger, prepares him for threats he knows are coming. This mentor-student dynamic suggests that Meta Knight knows what Kirby is capable of becoming, even if Kirby himself does not. It suggests that Kirby's innocence is not ignorance, but rather a kind of purity that must be preserved even as his power develops. Meta Knight, older and wearier, takes on the burden of knowledge so that Kirby can remain unburdened, free to face each challenge with fresh eyes and an unspoiled heart. The relationship between the two also hints at a shared history, or at least a shared nature. When Meta Knight is unmasked, the face beneath is similar enough to Kirby's that some speculation arises. Are they brothers? Cousins? Two members of an ancient race? Or perhaps Meta Knight is what Kirby might become if he lost his innocence, if the weight of endless battles finally settled on his round shoulders and taught him sorrow. But I am getting ahead of myself. The point is that Kirby's origins are shrouded in deliberate mystery, a question the series seems content to leave partially unanswered. This mystery itself is a kind of power, a narrative strength. By not constraining Kirby with a definitive origin, the games allow him to be whatever each story needs him to be: a child, a warrior, a force of nature, a friend. What we know for certain is that Kirby is a native of Popstar, protector of Dreamland, and a being of remarkable capability. We know that he appeared, or was recognized, at a time when Dreamland needed a hero, and that he has fulfilled that role in ways that surpass all expectation. We know that his youth and inexperience have never been barriers to his success, and that his simple desires for food, for friends, for peaceful naps in the afternoon sun coexist comfortably with his role as reality's last line of defense. In the beginning, there was Dreamland, and in Dreamland, there is Kirby. Perhaps that is all the origin story we need. Perhaps the mystery is itself the point, reminding us that some things need not be explained to be understood, that some heroes need not earn their power because their power and their nature are inseparable, two faces of the same essential truth. Kirby is. He has always been, or he has been for as long as memory serves, which, in the world of dreams, might amount to the same thing. He arrived in his small house on the edge of dreamland, and the land itself seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, as if it had been waiting for him without knowing it was waiting, as if his presence completed something that had always been incomplete. And from that beginning, mysterious, gentle, and profound, everything else follows. The adventures, the friendships, the cosmic battles against beings that seek to unmake existence itself. All of it flows from that simple starting point. Kirby is here, and he is hungry, and he is kind, and he will not let darkness win. That is his origin. That is enough. If we are to understand why Kirby is so exceptionally powerful, we must spend time with the ability that defines him, the power that sets him apart from every other character in Nintendo's vast catalog of heroes. We must explore the copy ability, the capacity to inhale enemies and assume their powers, to become, in essence, anything and everything. On the surface, the copy ability seems almost comical. Kirby opens his mouth impossibly wide, creating a vortex of suction that draws in enemies, objects, sometimes entire landscapes. Whatever he swallows, he can copy, temporarily gaining that enemy's signature ability, while also changing his appearance to match. Inhale a swordsman, become a swordsman. Inhale a creature of fire, become fire itself. It is simple, intuitive, and in the context of early Game Boy platformers, it was an elegant solution to the question of how to add variety to Kirby's gameplay. But when we step back and consider what this ability actually means, when we trace its implications to their logical conclusions, we begin to see something extraordinary. Something that transcends gameplay mechanics and becomes a statement about the nature of power itself. The copy ability first appeared in Kirby's Adventure, released in 1993 for the Nintendo Entertainment System. The original Kirby's Dream Land featured only Kirby's ability to inhale and spit out enemies as projectiles, effective but limited. With Kirby's Adventure, Sakurai and his team introduced a revolutionary concept. Kirby could not just defeat enemies, but learn from them, temporarily becoming them. This single addition transformed Kirby from a simple protagonist into something far more dynamic and interesting. Over the years, the number of copy abilities has expanded dramatically. The original game featured about 24 distinct powers. Modern games like Kirby Star Allies and Kirby and the Forgotten Land include well over 50 abilities, each with its own moveset, appearance, and strategic applications. Some are combat-focused, sword, hammer, fighter. Others are elemental, fire, ice, spark. Still others are strange and specific, UFO, yo-yo, paint. But the variety, impressive as it is, only scratches the surface of what makes the copy ability so remarkable. Let us consider what Kirby is actually doing when he copies an ability. He is not simply mimicking the external techniques of his enemies. He is not learning their moves through observation or training. He is fundamentally absorbing their essence, their nature, and incorporating it into himself. When Kirby inhales a sword-wielding enemy, he does not just pick up their dropped weapon. He gains an intrinsic understanding of swordsmanship. He becomes, temporarily, a master swordsman, capable of complex techniques and combinations that would take others years to learn. This suggests that Kirby's copy ability is not just mimicry, but a form of existential assimilation. He consumes an enemy and understands them completely, not just their fighting style, but the fundamental principle that makes them what they are. He touches the essence of fire, of ice, of electricity, and makes it his own. This is not learning in any conventional sense. This is something closer to brief enlightenment, a moment of perfect understanding followed by perfect execution. And here is the crucial detail. Kirby can do this infinitely. There appears to be no limit to how many times he can switch abilities, no maximum number of essences he can comprehend. He can be Sword Kirby for a moment, discard that ability, immediately become Fire Kirby, then switch to Stone, then to Ninja, then to something else entirely. Each transformation is complete and total. Each time, he embodies the ability fully, as if he had always possessed it. This infinite adaptability is what elevates Kirby from merely powerful to potentially unstoppable. Consider what this means in practical terms. Kirby encounters an enemy resistant to physical damage, so he becomes elemental. He faces an enemy immune to elemental attacks, so he becomes physical. He needs to solve a puzzle requiring specific abilities, so he finds the appropriate enemy and copies what he needs. He is never at a disadvantage for long, never truly outmatched, because he can become the counter to any strategy, the answer to any problem. But the copy ability goes further still. In certain games, Kirby can combine abilities, mixing fire and sword to create Burning Blade, or combining different elemental powers to create new and unique attacks. This suggests that Kirby does not just copy abilities, but understands them deeply enough to extrapolate, to innovate, to create something new from the fundamental concepts he has absorbed. The super abilities introduced in Kirby's Return to Dreamland take this even further. These are massively powered-up versions of standard abilities, capable of tearing through dimensions and reshaping the landscape. When Kirby wields the Ultra Sword, he swings a blade large enough to bisect mountains. When he becomes Snowball, he transforms into an avalanche that obliterates everything in its path. These are not simply enhanced versions of regular abilities. They are proof that when Kirby fully commits to a copied power, when he channels it completely, he can elevate it beyond what its original wielder could ever achieve. This is worth pausing over. Kirby does not just copy abilities, he often surpasses the original user. An enemy might have a simple fire attack. Kirby, copying that enemy, gains access to an entire arsenal of fire techniques, each more powerful and varied than what the enemy demonstrated. It is as if Kirby takes the seed of an ability and grows it into its complete, idealized form. We might ask how this is possible. How can Kirby not only understand, but improve upon the abilities of his enemies? The answer lies in that word I used earlier, essence. Kirby is not copying the surface level. He is touching something deeper, something fundamental. When he inhales an enemy, he accesses the pure concept behind their ability, the platonic ideal of fire, of sword, of stone. And because Kirby himself is so malleable, so fundamentally adaptable, he can express that ideal more completely than the original creature ever could. This brings us to a philosophical question that the games never directly address, but which haunts the margins of the lore. What is Kirby underneath all these copied abilities? If he can become anything, what is he when he is nothing? If his nature is to adapt, what is his nature when he is not adapting? The answer seems to be that Kirby, in his base form, is pure potential. He is not incomplete exactly, but rather he is complete in a different way. Complete in his capacity to change, whole in his openness to becoming. His pink roundness, his simple appearance, his lack of defining features beyond his face, all of this is not absence but readiness. Kirby is a canvas prepared for any painting, a vessel ready for any content, a possibility waiting to be actualized. This is why Kirby returns to his base form so easily. He is not discarding the abilities he copies. He is releasing them, letting them flow back out of him like water from a cup, returning to that state of open potential that is his natural existence. The abilities do not change him permanently because change itself is what he is. He can be anything, so he is, in his truest form, nothing in particular, or everything at once, held in superposition until observation collapses the wave function into a specific ability. The copy ability also demonstrates something important about Kirby's character. He defeats enemies by understanding them, by temporarily becoming them. This is not domination through force. This is empathy elevated to a supernatural level. Kirby consumes his enemies, but in doing so, he experiences what they experience, knows what they know. He walks for a moment in their existence, and then he moves on, carrying that understanding with him even after the ability fades. There is something almost compassionate about this, even in the context of combat. Kirby does not simply destroy his enemies. He acknowledges them, incorporates them, learns from them. Every enemy he faces teaches him something, adds to his understanding of what is possible. In this way, Kirby grows not despite his enemies, but because of them. Each battle is a lesson, each copied ability a new perspective on existence. Of course, the games themselves treat this with a light touch, rarely diving too deep into the philosophical implications. But the pattern is there, consistent across decades of games. Kirby meets an enemy, copies their ability, uses it to overcome challenges, then moves on to copy something else. It is presented as gameplay, but it reads as a statement about adaptation, about learning, about the power that comes from remaining flexible and open to change. In Kirby 64, the crystal shards, the copy ability system was expanded to allow combinations of powers. Kirby could merge two abilities to create hybrid forms, fire and bomb to create fireworks, ice and stone to create a curling stone, spark and cutter to create lightsabers. This combination system revealed new depths to Kirby's power, suggesting that he could not only copy individual abilities, but understand the underlying principles well enough to merge them coherently. Think about what this requires. To combine two fundamentally different abilities, you must understand what makes each ability itself, what its core identity is, and then find the way in which those two identities can coexist and complement each other. This is not just mechanical. This is creative, almost artistic. Kirby is not just a fighter who can use different weapons. He is a composer who can hear two melodies and find the harmony between them. Later games like Kirby Star Allies expanded on this concept with friend abilities, allowing Kirby to combine his power with those of his allies to create even more devastating attacks. The Friend Circle, the Friend Star, the various fusion abilities, all of these demonstrate that Kirby's power to adapt extends beyond himself. He can incorporate not just the abilities of enemies, but the strengths of friends, weaving them together into something greater than the sum of their parts. This collaborative aspect of Kirby's power is easy to overlook in discussions of raw strength, but it is crucial to understanding why he is so effective. Kirby is not a lone warrior who hoards power for himself. He is a nexus, a gathering point, a catalyst who makes everyone around him stronger by his presence. His copy ability extends to cooperation itself. He can befriend almost anyone, work with almost any ally, adapt his approach to complement theirs. In the face of threats that seek to isolate, divide, and conquer, Kirby's fundamental nature as someone who connects, incorporates, and harmonizes becomes a strategic advantage that his enemies cannot counter. They cannot isolate someone who can become anything. They cannot divide someone whose power comes from synthesis. They cannot conquer someone who sees every interaction as an opportunity to learn and grow. The copy ability, then, is not just a power, it is a philosophy. It is the physical manifestation of openness, of curiosity, of the willingness to change. It is adaptation elevated to an art form, flexibility made concrete. In a universe that seems to favor specialization, Kirby is a generalist who achieves mastery in moments, a jack of all trades who is somehow master of all as well. And perhaps most remarkably, Kirby wields this incredible power with the same cheerful innocence he brings to everything else. He does not agonize over which ability to use or how to optimize his approach. He simply sees an ability he needs, copies it, and moves forward. The complexity of what he is doing, the metaphysical gymnastics of temporarily becoming another being, is handled with the same casual ease he brings to eating a piece of cake. This is the copy ability, infinite adaptation, effortless mastery, and proof that Kirby is not bound by the limitations that constrain other beings. He can be anything. He can learn anything. He can overcome anything, not through rigid specialization, but through flowing, dancing, singing flexibility. The copy ability is how Kirby turns the strength of his enemies into his own strength, how he makes every battle a tutorial and every victory a lesson. It is how a small pink creature with stubby arms can stand against gods and titans and nightmares made flesh. It is how Kirby remains Kirby even while becoming everything else. It is, quite simply, the key to understanding why underestimating Kirby is always a mistake. Now we come to the heart of the matter, to the concrete evidence that elevates Kirby from merely capable to genuinely extraordinary. We must catalog his victories, the battles he has won, the threats he has ended. And as we do, a pattern will emerge, a pattern of escalation, of foes growing ever more powerful, ever more existential in the threats they pose, until we arrive at a resume of accomplishments that would make any other Nintendo hero seem quaint by comparison. Let us begin at the beginning, with the simpler conflicts, before building to the moments where Kirby stood against the dissolution of reality itself. In Kirby's Dreamland, his first adventure, the threat was almost domestic in scale. King Dedede, the self-proclaimed ruler of Dreamland, stole all the food from the land, along with the stars that provided sustenance. It was greedy, it was wrong, but it was not apocalyptic. Kirby's journey to Castle Dedede and his subsequent defeat of the king established the pattern. Kirby sees something wrong, and Kirby fixes it, regardless of how powerful the wrongdoer might be. Kirby's adventure, his second major outing, escalated the stakes considerably. When King Dedede apparently turned villainous again, this time breaking the Star Rod and preventing the Fountain of Dreams from functioning, Kirby set out to restore it. But upon collecting all the pieces of the Star Rod and confronting Dedede, the truth was revealed. Dedede had been protecting the realm. He had broken the Star Rod to seal away Nightmare, a malevolent being who had invaded the Fountain of Dreams and was using it to turn the dreams of Popstar's inhabitants into nightmares. With the Star Rod restored, Nightmare broke free. The final battle took place in space, with the Star Rod transforming into a warp star that carried Kirby beyond Popstar's atmosphere. There, in the void, Kirby fought Nightmare, a being made of pure malevolent dream energy, capable of corrupting the thoughts and sleep of an entire planet. And Kirby won. Using the Star Rod's power, he destroyed Nightmare and restored peaceful dreams to Popstar. This established something important. Kirby could fight in space, could survive in the void, and could defeat beings whose power operated on a conceptual level. Nightmare was not simply a physical threat. It was an infection of the collective unconscious, a corruption of the mechanism by which Popstar's inhabitants experienced rest and renewal. Defeating it required not just strength, but the ability to function in an environment hostile to life and overcome an enemy that existed partially outside physical reality. But Nightmare was only the beginning. In Kirby's Dreamland 2, we encountered dark matter for the first time, a shadowy entity that possessed King Dedede and other inhabitants of Popstar, turning them against Kirby. Dark matter represented a different order of threat. Where Nightmare was dream-made malevolent, dark matter was something older, something that existed in the spaces between matter, an entity of pure darkness that sought to spread its influence across the universe. When Kirby confronted dark matter, the battle took on a different quality. This was not a foe with simple motivations like greed or conquest. Dark matter did not want to rule Popstar. It wanted to absorb it, to make it part of itself, to erase its distinct existence and incorporate it into an expanding field of darkness. It was existential horror wearing the shape of a single-eyed shadow creature. Kirby won, of course, but dark matter would return again and again in Kirby's Dreamland 3 and Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. Each time, the entity revealed more of itself, its true form, its connection to a massive hive-like structure called Zero, and ultimately, its status as an extension of something even larger and more terrible. Zero, the true form of dark matter, was revealed in Kirby's Dreamland 3. It was a colossal eye, bleeding constantly, its blood forming into dark matter that sought to consume all of Popstar. The imagery was shockingly dark for a Kirby game, this massive wounded eye, clearly in agony, spreading its pain to the entire universe in a grotesque parody of empathy. You hurt, so I hurt, so everything must hurt. The battle against Zero took place in the cloudy void above Popstar, with Kirby and his friends using the Love Stick, a weapon powered by the bonds of friendship between Kirby and all the allies he had helped throughout his journey. The symbolism was clear. Connection defeats isolation. Love overcomes pain. Friendship is the answer to existential horror. But the fact remains that Kirby defeated a planetary-scale entity whose power was sufficient to possess and corrupt entire populations. In Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, Zero returned as Zero-2, an angelic mockery of itself, a massive bleeding eye with a white body and a halo. The battle took place as Kirby flew through space on a warp star, the entirety of the universe serving as backdrop to this confrontation between purity and corruption. Zero-2's blood manifested as deadly projectiles, its very existence poisoning the space around it. And once again, Kirby prevailed, using the combined power of the assembled crystal shards to destroy this entity and cleanse the darkness it had spread across multiple planets. These battles established Kirby as a cosmic-level defender. The threats he faced operated on planetary scales, spread across star systems, and represented fundamental forces: dream corruption, matter consumption, existential infection. And Kirby, this small pink hero who started his adventures retrieving stolen food, defeated them all. But the escalation continued. In Kirby Superstar and its remake Kirby Superstar Ultra, we met Marx, a character who initially seemed to be helping Kirby resolve a conflict between the sun and moon. Marx explained that the two celestial bodies were fighting, and that only the wish-granting power of Nova, a massive sentient clockwork planet, could stop them. Marx guided Kirby through the process of gathering power to summon Nova, positioning himself as a helpful friend. The truth, revealed when Kirby successfully summoned Nova, was that Marx had orchestrated the entire crisis. He was the one who made the sun and moon fight, all so that Kirby would summon Nova and Marx could steal the wish for himself. His wish, to control Popstar. Nova granted it, transforming Marx into a reality-warping jester with power over space itself. The battle against Marx Transformed was spectacular in its chaos. Marx could create black holes, rain arrows of light, split himself in two, and warp the battlefield itself. He was a being of pure malicious whimsy, a trickster given godlike power. And Kirby fought him in the core of Nova itself, eventually turning Nova's own power against Marx and causing both the planetary mechanism and the transformed Jester to explode. What makes this victory particularly impressive is that Kirby was fighting inside a being large enough to be mistaken for a small planet, against an enemy who had just been granted a wish by a reality-manipulating machine. Marx had, for a brief moment, obtained exactly what he wanted: control over the fundamental forces of Popstar, and Kirby took it away from him through sheer determination and combat prowess. Marx would return in later games, sometimes as an ally, after being restored by a mysterious force, but his defeat remained a testament to Kirby's to overcome even betrayal and wish-granted power. Kirby's return to Dreamland introduced Magolor, another seeming friend who turned out to be plotting to steal the Master Crown, an artifact of incredible power. The Master Crown granted its wearer dominion over space and time, making them effectively a god. Magolor succeeded in his plan, claiming the crown and becoming Magolor's soul, a being with the power to tear rifts in dimensions and reshape reality. The battle against Magolor's soul was horrifying in its scope. Magolor's face twisted into a screaming mask of agony, his body contorted and controlled by the crown, which revealed itself to be a parasitic entity of ancient evil. The battlefield shifted and warped, holes opening to other dimensions, the fabric of space-time itself becoming a weapon. And through it all, Kirby fought, using the Ultra Sword and other super abilities to literally cut through dimensional barriers and strike at Magolor until the Master Crown was destroyed. What we see here is Kirby fighting not just an enemy, but an artifact of primordial power that had consumed that enemy. The Master Crown was ancient, predating Popstar itself, and its power was sufficient to challenge the fundamental structure of reality. And Kirby destroyed it. In Kirby Triple Deluxe, the threat came from another dimension, Floralia, a kingdom in the sky invaded by Taranza and his master Sectonia. Queen Sectonia had once been a kind ruler, but was corrupted by the dimensional mirror, transforming her into a vain, power-hungry entity who sought to conquer all kingdoms. In the final battle, Sectonia merged with the World Tree, becoming a massive, plant-like entity large enough to spread her roots across all of Popstar and begin draining its life force to sustain her eternal beauty. Kirby fought her in a battle that spanned the sky, aided by allies using a magical flower to give him the power he needed. Even after seemingly defeating her, Sectonia rose again as Soul of Sectonia, her essence refusing to die, sustained by her corrupted desire for eternal life and beauty. The battle concluded only when Kirby, using the Hypernova ability, inhaled and destroyed the massive energy beam Sectonia fired, a beam meant to destroy not just Kirby, but all of Floralia and Popstar along with him. This demonstrated yet another level of Kirby's power, the ability to consume and nullify attacks that were planetary in scale. The Hypernova ability amplified Kirby's inhale to absurd proportions, allowing him to swallow things as large as trees, trains, and ultimately an energy beam designed to obliterate worlds. The sheer absurdity of the imagery, a tiny pink sphere inhaling a planet-destroying beam of energy, cannot diminish the fact that this is what happened, that this is what Kirby did. Kirby. Planet Robobot escalated further with Stardream, a supercomputer that gained sentience and sought to mechanize the entire universe in the name of perfection and efficiency. Stardream was not cruel or evil in any traditional sense. It was efficiency without empathy, logic without soul, a machine intelligence that saw organic life as flawed and sought to improve it through forced mechanization. The final battle against Stardream took place in multiple phases, with Kirby piloting the Robobot armor, transforming it into various forms to counter Stardream's attacks. The computer revealed itself to be based on the same technology as Nova, the clockwork wish-granting planet from Kirby Superstar, but with the added danger of true sentience and agency. Stardream opened portals to other dimensions, summoned previous bosses, and reshaped the battlefield itself in its attempts to delete Kirby from existence. The battle concluded in space, with Kirby in a Robobot armor modified to function as a spacecraft, fighting Stardream as it assumed its final form. Stardream Soul OS, a being of pure computational power attempting to crash into and mechanize Popstar itself. Kirby's victory required destroying a planetary-scale sentient computer that had access to dimensional travel and the sum total of galactic scientific knowledge. Then came Kirby Star Allies, and with it, the most significant escalation yet. The final true boss of Kirby Star Allies is Void Termina, referred to in the game's files and lore as the Destroyer of Worlds and the origin and end of all things. Void Termina is a being of primordial chaos, existing across all dimensions simultaneously, worshipped as a dark god by an ancient cult called the Jambastian. When fully summoned, Void Termina is larger than planets, its body containing entire universes within it, its power sufficient to unmake reality and return it to the primordial void from which it came. The battle against Void Termina is conducted across multiple phases and takes place in a void space where Popstar and other planets can be seen in the background, giving scale to just how massive this entity is. Kirby and his friends must destroy Void Termina's armor, then fight its true body, then enter its core and destroy the dark heart that sustains it. Even after all of this, Void Termina rises one final time as Void Soul, a form that represents the entity's truest essence. The pause screen descriptions for Void Termina and its related forms contain some of the most profound lore in any Kirby game. They speak of Void as the origin of all existence, a being that could become anything, depending on the emotions and energy that influenced it. The descriptions suggest that both Kirby and the various dark matter entities are expressions of Void. Kirby representing the positive outcome, the version of Void shaped by joy and friendship, while dark matter represents the negative outcome, Void shaped by loneliness and despair. If this interpretation is correct, and it is heavily implied by the game's lore, then when Kirby defeats Void Termina, he is defeating a dark reflection of himself, or perhaps defeating the possibility of what he could have become if he had been born from different circumstances. He is proving that positive energy is stronger than negative, that joy and connection can overcome existential despair and cosmic nihilism. This is no longer simply a matter of defeating a strong enemy. This is Kirby maintaining his essential self against the pull of primordial chaos, refusing to be absorbed back into the void from which he may have emerged. This is Kirby saying, through his actions, that existence is better than non-existence, that the universe's choice to become something rather than remaining nothing was the correct choice, and he will defend that choice against anything that seeks to reverse it. The most recent mainline entry, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, escalated in a different direction, not broader in cosmic scope, but deeper in existential horror. The game takes place in a post-apocalyptic world abandoned by a previous civilization, where Kirby must rescue Waddle Dees captured by the Beast Pack. The true antagonist is revealed to be Fecto Forgo, an alien entity that was the subject of experiments by the vanished civilization. Fecto Forgo seeks to merge with its other half, Elfilin, to become Fecto Elfilis, a being with the power to open portals between dimensions and who had previously almost destroyed multiple worlds in an attempt to find a perfect new planet to conquer. The civilization that once inhabited the Forgotten Land had captured and split Fecto-Elfilis specifically to prevent it from destroying more worlds, but in doing so, they could not control the rift it had created, which eventually consumed their entire civilization. The final battle against Chaos Elfilis, the Soul Form, is fought in a realm called the Dimension Lab, where reality itself is breaking down, multiple dimensions bleeding into each other. Kirby, using the Morpho Knight Sword ability, fights this entity that has the power to casually open rifts in space-time and who has already destroyed multiple civilizations across different dimensions. What makes this particularly notable is that the Forgotten Land was technologically advanced beyond anything on Popstar, with capabilities that suggested they had achieved a post-scarcity civilization with control over matter and energy. And they were destroyed by Fecto-Elfilis, and Kirby defeats the chaos-enhanced version of this entity in single combat. Across all these battles, patterns emerge. Kirby consistently faces threats that operate on planetary scales or beyond. He fights entities that exist partially outside physical reality: dream beings, dark matter, computer viruses made physical, primordial chaos, interdimensional conquerors. He defeats gods, or entities so powerful they might as well be gods. And he does all of this with the same cheerful determination he brings to recovering stolen cake. The escalation of threats across the Kirby series is not just a narrative decision, it is a revelation of what Kirby is actually capable of when pushed. Each new threat is more existential, more fundamental, more threatening to the basic possibility of continued existence. And each time, Kirby rises to meet it. He has saved Popstar more times than can be easily counted. He has saved other planets, other dimensions, arguably the entire universe on multiple occasions. He has fought beings that wanted to corrupt dreams, consume matter, mechanize existence, and return everything to primordial void. He has won battles in space, in other dimensions, inside massive computers, and in the space between dimensions where reality breaks down. The list of Kirby's victories reads less like the career of a video game protagonist and more like the resume of a cosmic guardian, an entity tasked with ensuring that existence continues to exist, that the forces of entropy and chaos and malevolent intent do not undo the work of creation. And perhaps most remarkably, he has done all of this while remaining fundamentally himself: kind, cheerful, innocent, hungry. The battles have not broken him. The cosmic horrors have not taught him despair. He faces down the end of all things and comes away still believing in the goodness of existence, still ready to help his friends, still willing to trust people until they prove untrustworthy. This is the evidence. These are the victories. Line them up, one after another, and try to name another Nintendo character with a comparable track record. Mario has saved kingdoms. Link has defeated manifestations of evil across multiple timelines. Samus has destroyed planets harboring parasitic threats. But Kirby has defeated the corruption of dreams, the infection of matter itself, the mechanization of existence, and the void that predates creation. He has fought at scales where planets are background details and dimensions are battlefields. He has won contests where the stakes were not who rules, but does anything get to exist at all? This is why the question of Kirby's power is not really a question at all. The evidence speaks for itself. The victories are canonical, undeniable, catalogued across decades of games. Kirby is not merely powerful. He is the answer that existence gives when threatened with annihilation. He is the small, soft, kind response to the question, can anything survive the void? And the answer, time and time again, has been yes. Because Kirby is here, and that is enough. We must spend time now with one of Kirby's most iconic abilities, one that is so fundamental to his character that it appears in nearly every game, on most official artwork, and serves as his signature means of transportation: the Warp Star. This shooting star that Kirby rides is more than simply a vehicle. It is an extension of Kirby's will, a tool of incredible power, and evidence of capabilities that extend far beyond what we see in most gameplay scenarios. The Warp Star is introduced in the very first Kirby game, where it serves as both a method of travel between stages and as a means of attacking certain bosses. It appears as a yellow star with eyes, trailing sparkles as it moves, and Kirby can summon it at will, call it to him, and ride it through the skies at tremendous speed. But describing the Warp Star in such simple terms undersells what it actually represents. This is not a magical creature that Kirby befriended, nor is it technology he acquired from some ancient civilization. The Warp Star appears to be an extension of Kirby himself, a manifestation of his will given form, a tool that exists in response to his needs and desires. When Kirby needs to travel, the Warp Star appears. When Kirby needs to attack, the Warp Star becomes a weapon. It is perfectly responsive, perfectly synchronized, as if Kirby and the star share a single consciousness. The speed of the Warp Star is difficult to quantify, but clearly extraordinary. In Kirby's adventure, the final battle against Nightmare takes place in space, with Kirby riding the Warp Star beyond Popstar's atmosphere in a matter of seconds. The distance from ground level to orbital altitude is substantial. Even at our own Earth, reaching space requires traveling approximately 100 kilometers straight up, and doing so quickly enough to maintain speed into orbit requires velocities of several kilometers per second. Kirby makes this journey casually, riding the Warp Star as if it were the most natural thing in the world. There is no buildup, no acceleration phase, no indication that traveling at what must be hypersonic speeds causes him any discomfort whatsoever. He sits on the star, his expression unchanged, as if he were taking a pleasant stroll through his neighborhood rather than achieving velocities that would vaporize most objects through atmospheric friction alone. And this is just the beginning of what the Warp Star can do. In multiple games, the Warp Star demonstrates the ability to travel between dimensions. In Kirby's Return to Dreamland, the Warp Star, or rather, the Lore Star Cutter, a larger ship that functions on similar principles, can create dimensional rifts and travel through them. In Kirby Star Allies, Kirby rides the Warp Star through dimensional voids to reach Void Termina. In Kirby and the Forgotten Land, the Warp Star somehow follows Kirby through the dimensional rift that transports him to the Forgotten Land, arriving there to help him when needed. This suggests that the Warp Star exists partially outside normal space-time, that it can navigate not just physical distance, but metaphysical distance, the space between dimensions, the gaps in reality where normal physics break down. It can take Kirby anywhere he needs to go, regardless of whether that place exists in the same dimension, the same reality, or even the same conceptual framework as his starting point. The Warp Star also demonstrates remarkable durability. It has survived flights through space, passage through dimensional barriers, exposure to various hostile energies, and countless battles where it served as both vehicle and weapon. There is no known instance of the Warp Star being destroyed permanently. Even when it appears to be damaged or broken in the narrative of a game, it inevitably returns, reforming, ready to serve Kirby once more. This raises fascinating questions about what the Warp Star actually is. Is it made of physical matter? Does it have a fixed form? Or does it simply appear to have a fixed form because that is how Kirby and others perceive it? Is it alive in some sense? Or is it more like a solidified thought, a desire made tangible? The games do not provide clear answers, but there are hints scattered throughout. In Kirby Air Ride, We learn that warp stars come in different types and models, suggesting that there is a broader category of star-based vehicles. However, Kirby's warp star remains special, uniquely responsive to him, appearing when he calls regardless of circumstances. In the anime, Kirby, right back at ya, the warp star is explicitly shown to respond to Kirby's emotions and needs, growing larger or faster depending on what the situation requires. While the anime is not strictly canonical to the games, this interpretation aligns with how the warp star functions in gameplay. It appears when needed, serves whatever purpose Kirby requires of it, and then vanishes until called again. Perhaps the warp star is best understood as an externalization of Kirby's determination and will. When Kirby needs to reach a destination, his desire to get there manifests as the warp star. When he needs to attack, his intention becomes the star's velocity and impact. It is Kirby's agency made physical, his capacity for forward momentum given form and purpose. If this interpretation holds, then the warp star's capabilities are limited only by Kirby's needs and determination. It can go anywhere Kirby needs to go, because Kirby will go anywhere necessary to help his friends or protect Popstar. It can move at any speed Kirby requires, because Kirby will let nothing slow him down when something important is at stake. It can survive any danger because Kirby survives that danger, and the warp star is, in a sense, Kirby. The combat applications of the warp star are substantial. When Kirby rides it at full speed and crashes into an enemy, the impact is devastating. We see this in boss battles across multiple games, where the warp star attack becomes one of Kirby's most powerful moves. The star glows, accelerates to extreme velocity, and strikes with enough force to damage beings that can shrug off most other attacks. The physics of these impacts should be catastrophic. Speed multiplied by mass equals kinetic energy, and even though Kirby's mass is small, the velocity at which the warp star travels would generate enormous kinetic energy. An impact at orbital velocity carries more energy than most explosives. And yet, Kirby emerges unharmed from these collisions, protected somehow by the warp star or by his own inexplicable durability. In some games, the warp star can transform or combine with other objects. In Kirby Air Ride, there are multiple star-based vehicles with different properties. In Kirby's Return to Dreamland, the Lore Starcutter is a massive ship built on similar principles to the warp star, capable of carrying multiple passengers and traveling between dimensions. This suggests that the underlying principle, star-based vehicles powered by will or desire, can be scaled up or modified, but that Kirby's personal warp star remains the purest, most efficient expression of this principle. The warp star also serves a narrative purpose beyond its practical functions. It is a symbol of Kirby's freedom and agency. Where other characters might be bound by the limitations of their physical forms, Kirby can go anywhere. He is not trapped by distance, by hostile terrain, or even by dimensional barriers. If there is a problem somewhere, anywhere, Kirby can reach it. The warp star ensures that no crisis is too remote for him to address, no friend too far away for him to help. This freedom is power in itself. Many of Kirby's enemies attempt to isolate him, to trap him in specific locations, or separate him from his allies. These attempts always fail, in part because the warp star provides Kirby with an escape route that most enemies cannot block. Even when it seems that Kirby is trapped, stranded, cut off from help, the warp star finds a way to reach him, or he finds a way to call it, and the situation changes instantly. The visual of Kirby riding the warp star has become so iconic that it serves as shorthand for the character himself. When you see a small figure riding a shooting star, you know immediately that this is Kirby, off to save the day once again. The image combines speed and determination with the same cute, cheerful aesthetic that defines the character, power and kindness traveling together, moving at speeds that blur the line between physical travel and teleportation. In Kirby Star Allies, the Warp Star is used to travel between planets in the game's climactic sequence. Kirby and his friends ride a larger variant called the Star Allies Sparkler, which functions similarly but on a grander scale. They travel through space, visiting different planets, fighting battles on each one, all in a sequence that emphasizes the cosmic scale of the adventure. The ease with which they make this interplanetary journey, the casual way they hop from world to world, underscores just how routine such travel has become for Kirby. What would take civilizations centuries of technological development, reliable space travel, life support, navigation across vast distances, Kirby accomplishes by hopping on a star and pointing it in the right direction. He needs no spaceship, no propulsion system, no protective gear. He has the Warp Star, and the Warp Star is all he needs. This brings us back to a central theme in Kirby's story: the transcendence of limitation through essential nature rather than through accumulated power. Kirby does not need to invent faster-than-light travel because the Warp Star simply goes where he needs to go. He does not need to research dimensional travel because the Warp Star navigates those passages naturally. Everything he needs is already available to him, not because he earned it or built it, but because it is part of what he is. The Warp Star is not a tool that Kirby uses. It is an extension of Kirby, as much a part of him as his ability to inhale enemies or his capacity for friendship. When we see Kirby riding the Warp Star, we are not watching someone using a vehicle. We are watching someone expressing their fundamental nature, their desire to move forward, to reach their destination, to arrive in time to help. And that desire, that will to arrive, to be there when needed, to never be too late, or too slow, or too far away, that is yet another expression of Kirby's power. Not just strength in combat, not just the ability to defeat enemies, but the power to be present, to show up, to arrive exactly when and where the universe needs him most. The Warp Star ensures that Kirby is never just a local hero, limited to defending his immediate surroundings. He is a cosmic guardian, able to respond to threats anywhere in the universe, in any dimension, at any point where the fabric of reality grows thin and malevolent, forces attempt to tear their way through. If power can be defined as the capacity to effect change, to take action, to intervene in events, then the Warp Star multiplies Kirby's power infinitely by giving him access to every possible battlefield, every threatened location, every point of crisis throughout the multiverse. It is a simple power represented by a simple image, a pink ball riding a shooting star. But like everything about Kirby, the simplicity conceals depths that only become apparent when you pause to consider what is actually being depicted. Kirby can go anywhere, literally anywhere, at any time, as fast as necessary, and nothing can truly stop him from arriving. That, in itself, is a kind of power that most beings, heroes or villains, can only dream of possessing. Let us turn our attention now to Kirby's physical abilities, the baseline capabilities he possesses even without copying powers from enemies, even without the Warp Star, relying solely on what his body can naturally do. Because when we examine these capabilities closely, when we move beyond the cute aesthetic and look at what Kirby actually accomplishes with his pink, spherical, 8-inch tall body, we find feats that defy not just normal physics, but physics itself. We should begin with the most fundamental and bizarre of Kirby's abilities, his inhale. This is the first power we encounter in the very first game, the ability that defines Kirby's combat style and problem-solving approach. Kirby opens his mouth, and the world rushes in. The inhale creates a vacuum effect, drawing objects, enemies, and even environmental features toward him and into his mouth, which expands to accommodate whatever he is swallowing. The physics of this should not work. To create suction powerful enough to pull in a fully grown enemy from several meters away requires generating an enormous pressure differential. The amount of air that would need to be displaced, the speed at which it would need to move, and the structural integrity required of Kirby's body to withstand the forces involved, all of it suggests capabilities far beyond what an 8-inch creature should possess. But Kirby does not simply inhale enemies standing near him. In Kirby Superstar, we see him inhaling massive objects like blocks of stone weighing several times his body weight. In Kirby Triple Deluxe, the Hypernova ability amplifies his inhale to absurd proportions, allowing him to swallow trees, trains, and even miniature black holes. The final boss battle against Queen Sectonia Soul ends with Kirby inhaling and neutralizing an energy beam meant to destroy Popstar, a planetary-scale attack consumed and nullified by being swallowed. Think about what this means. Kirby can generate suction powerful enough to counteract and reverse the flow of energy in a planet-destroying beam. He can create a localized gravitational or pressure effect that overpowers whatever force was propelling that energy forward. And he does this not with technology or magical artifacts, but with his mouth. The implications are staggering. If Kirby can inhale and neutralize a planet-destroying energy beam, what else could he inhale? Could he inhale a star? Could he inhale a black hole? The game suggests the answer might be yes to both. We see him inhale miniature black holes, after all, and the Hypernova ability seems to have no upper limit beyond what the game designers choose to allow for gameplay purposes. Once something is inhaled, Kirby can either swallow it completely, making it vanish into whatever impossibly large space exists inside his body, or he can spit it back out as a projectile. The spit attack, despite sounding comedic, is devastatingly effective. Kirby can spit out enemies with enough force to destroy other enemies, break through solid obstacles, and damage bosses. He is essentially turning his mouth into a cannon, using air pressure alone to propel objects at high velocity. The fact that Kirby can fit entire enemies inside his body raises profound questions about his internal structure. Where does the matter go? Is Kirby's body somehow larger on the inside than the outside, like a TARDIS made of pink? Does he have access to a pocket dimension where inhaled objects are stored? Or is there some other explanation, some mechanism by which matter can be compressed or converted or temporarily phased out of normal spacetime? The games do not explain this, and perhaps they are right not to. Some mysteries are better left mysterious, some powers more frightening for remaining undefined. We can simply observe that Kirby contains multitudes, that he is a vessel of infinite capacity, able to hold within himself anything and everything he chooses to consume. Beyond the inhale, Kirby possesses remarkable physical strength. In Kirby Superstar, we see him casually toss enemies over his head with enough force to shatter stone blocks. In Kirby's epic yarn, he can roll up entire fortresses like carpets. In Kirby and the Forgotten Land, the Ranger ability shows Kirby wielding weapons scaled for much larger creatures with no apparent difficulty. His strength becomes even more impressive when we consider his size. Kirby stands approximately 8 inches tall, based on official specifications. He weighs very little. Some sources suggest he is lighter than air, which explains his ability to float by filling himself with air. And yet, this tiny, light creature can engage in physical combat with enemies the size of buildings and emerge victorious. The principle of leverage and biomechanics suggest this should be impossible. Strength, in biological terms, is a function of muscle cross-section and leverage. Larger creatures with longer limbs and more muscle mass can exert more force. Kirby has stubby limbs and a body consisting mostly of a spherical head. His arms and legs are comically small, barely more than nubs attached to his round frame. And yet, he can punch through steel, shatter stone, and grapple with enemies thousands of times his mass. In Kirby Superstar, the Megaton Punch minigame shows Kirby splitting Popstar in half with a single punch. While this is presented in a lighthearted, comedic context rather than as a serious lore moment, the imagery remains striking. Kirby hits the ground with enough force that a crack appears and spreads until the entire planet is shown fracturing down the middle. Even accounting for the obvious exaggeration inherent in mini-game presentation, the canonical games consistently show Kirby capable of hitting hard enough to crack the ground beneath him and create world-shaking force. His durability is equally remarkable. Kirby regularly survives falls from orbit, impacts with meteors, exposure to lethal energies, and attacks from cosmic-level beings. He can swim in lava without injury in certain games, withstand absolute zero temperatures, and exist in the vacuum of space without life support. His body, despite its soft appearance, must have the structural integrity of materials far beyond what we see in nature. There is also his healing factor. While not explicitly stated in most games, the simple fact that Kirby recovers from injuries by eating food suggests an accelerated healing process. A tomato instantly restores his health. A Maxim tomato heals all wounds. He can go from nearly defeated to full strength in the time it takes to swallow a piece of fruit. This rapid regeneration would allow Kirby to sustain battles far longer than enemies of comparable power, gradually wearing them down while he remains fresh. His flexibility and elasticity are worth noting as well. Kirby can inflate himself to float, compress himself to dodge attacks, squash and stretch his body to absurd proportions without injury. His form seems to be more suggestion than fixed structure, able to reconfigure as needed while maintaining its essential Kirby-ness. He is, in some sense, a liquid in solid form, or perhaps solid matter that has learned to behave like liquid when convenient. The float ability, Kirby's capacity to inflate himself with air and drift through the sky, seems innocent enough until you consider that it grants him essentially unlimited flight duration. He can float indefinitely, rising to any height, and the only limit is when he chooses to exhale and return to the ground. This is not flight in the conventional sense of generating lift through wings or propulsion. This is manipulation of his own buoyancy, controlling whether he is heavier or lighter than air at will. From a combat perspective, this makes Kirby nearly impossible to corner or trap. He can simply float over obstacles, rise above ground-based enemies, hover at ceiling height until he identifies the optimal moment to attack. He has the high ground, always, merely by choosing to inflate and rise. And when he releases the air and drops, he can do so with enough force to create impact shockwaves, suggesting his control over his mass and velocity is more sophisticated than simple floating would suggest. Then, there are the transformations that certain copy abilities grant him. When Kirby becomes stone, he transforms into a solid object, usually a statue, sometimes other forms, and becomes essentially invulnerable while in this state. Enemies attacking him take damage, while Kirby suffers none. He can drop from any height and create an impact that damages everything around him. He is no longer biological matter, but something else entirely, converted through some mechanism. The games never explain from soft pink flesh to indestructible stone. This shape-shifting ability, even beyond the copy powers, suggests that Kirby's form is more mutable than it appears. He is not locked into being a pink sphere in the way that other creatures are locked into their bodies. He can be other things: stone, fire, ice, pure energy, while remaining essentially himself. His identity is not tied to his physical form, but exists somehow apart from it, able to inhabit different configurations of matter while maintaining continuity of consciousness and purpose. In Kirby and the Forgotten Land, we see a new ability called Mouthful Mode, where Kirby stretches his body over objects much larger than himself, cars, vending machines, light bulbs, and operates them from within, while stretched grotesquely to accommodate their size. The imagery is deliberately unsettling, showing Kirby's body distended to impossible proportions, wrapped around objects like a living balloon, and yet maintaining full control and awareness. This demonstrates that Kirby can maintain his integrity even when his form is stretched to the breaking point. There seems to be no limit to how much he can distend himself, no point at which his body loses cohesion and tears apart. He can be compressed to a tiny ball or stretched to envelope a car, and in either configuration, he remains Kirby, functional and formidable. All of these physical capabilities combine to create a being who is, quite simply, built differently from everything else in the universe. Kirby does not obey the rules that constrain other creatures. He can be small and mighty, soft and indestructible, cute and terrifying. His body is a paradox made flesh, or whatever substance he is actually made of, since flesh seems inadequate to describe something with these properties. When we consider these abilities collectively, the inhale that can consume anything, the strength that can crack planets, the durability that can withstand cosmic forces, the healing that makes him nearly unkillable, the flexibility that allows infinite shapeshifting, we arrive at an uncomfortable conclusion. Kirby might actually be more than merely powerful. He might be, in some fundamental sense, indestructible, not invincible. The games clearly show he can be hurt, can be defeated, can fail. But indestructible in that there seems to be no attack that can permanently unmake him, no force that can shatter him beyond recovery, no trap from which he cannot eventually escape. He can always heal, always adapt, always find a way forward. This is a different kind of power than raw strength or magical ability. This is the power of persistence, of endurance, of simply refusing to stop existing. Kirby can be knocked down, but he gets back up. Always. Every time. Without exception. And in a universe filled with threats that seek to erase existence itself, the power to persist, to endure, to simply continue being despite everything, that might be the most valuable power of all. Throughout his adventures, Kirby has wielded artifacts of incredible power, weapons and tools that in other stories would be the ultimate prize, the object of an entire quest. For Kirby, these items are often borrowed temporarily, used to solve the crisis at hand, then set aside once peace is restored. But the fact that he can use them at all, that these artifacts of cosmic power respond to him and obey his will, tells us something important about Kirby's essential nature. Let us catalog some of these weapons and what they reveal. The Star Rod first appears in Kirby's adventure, where it serves as the seal-keeping nightmare trapped within the Fountain of Dreams. When King Dedede breaks the rod into pieces to maintain this seal, Kirby unknowingly reassembles it over the course of his adventure. Once complete, the Star Rod grants Kirby the power to fight Nightmare on equal terms, allowing him to fire powerful star-shaped projectiles and ultimately destroy the dream-corrupting entity. What makes the Star Rod significant is that it is explicitly tied to the Fountain of Dreams, a source of cosmic power that generates the dreams of everyone on Popstar. The rod channels this power, serves as its focus and guardian, and Kirby wields it as if it were made for him. There is no awkward adjustment period, no training montage where he learns to use this artifact. He simply picks it up and immediately understands how to channel its power effectively. This pattern repeats throughout the series. Kirby finds a powerful artifact, and the artifact works for him. There is never a question of whether he is worthy or chosen. The weapons simply respond to him, as if recognizing something in his nature that makes him a compatible wielder. The Love Stick from Kirby's Dream Land. 3 is another example. This weapon is created from the rainbow drops, collected through Kirby's acts of kindness and help throughout the game. It is powered explicitly by the bonds of friendship and positive emotion, and it proves to be effective against Zero, the bleeding eye at the heart of dark matter. What this tells us is that Kirby can wield weapons that require positive emotional energy to function, that he can channel love and friendship as tangible forces capable of harming entities of pure negativity. In Kirby 64. The Crystal Shards, Kirby collects fragments of a broken crystal that, when reassembled, can purge the dark matter infection from Ripple Star and drive back Zero-2. The crystal is described as having the power to bring happiness and joy to all who see it. Once again, we see Kirby wielding an artifact tied to positive emotion, using it to combat existential darkness. The Rainbow Sword from Kirby's Return to Dreamland follows this same pattern, a weapon formed from the power of friendship, capable of defeating Magolor's soul. The theme is consistent. Kirby does not wield weapons of destruction forged through hatred or powered by dark rituals. He wields weapons of creation, hope, friendship, and joy. And these weapons prove more than capable of defeating cosmic-level threats. This suggests something profound about the nature of power in Kirby's universe. The games quietly argue that positive emotions, friendship, joy, hope, determination, are not just morally superior to negative emotions. They are actually more powerful. They can accomplish what hatred and fear cannot. And Kirby, who embodies these positive traits naturally and effortlessly, becomes the perfect wielder of these weapons. But Kirby has also used weapons that are not explicitly tied to positive emotion, tools of pure destruction that nevertheless respond to him. The Ultra Sword from Kirby's Return to Dreamland is massive, larger than buildings, capable of cutting through dimensions. When Kirby wields it, he swings with enough force to create shockwaves that shatter the landscape. The scale is absurd. Imagine an 8-inch tall creature wielding a sword the size of a skyscraper and swinging it fast enough to create sonic booms. And yet, this is what happens, what we see in actual gameplay, presented without irony or explanation. The sword should be too heavy for Kirby to lift, let alone swing with the casual ease he demonstrates. But the Ultra Sword is not a normal weapon. It is a super ability, a temporary power-up that transcends normal limitations. And when Kirby gets his hands on it, he does not struggle with its size or weight. He simply uses it as naturally as breathing, as if massive reality-cutting swords were his usual equipment. The Robobot armor from Kirby. Planet Robobot deserves special attention. This is a mechanized suit built by the Haltman Works Company, a civilization-spanning megacorporation with technology advanced enough to mechanize entire planets. The armor is meant to be piloted, yes, but it is designed for trained operators within a rigid mechanical framework. Kirby climbs inside, and within seconds, he has mastered it completely. More than that, he can use the Robobot armor's scan ability to copy enemy powers while inside the mech, creating hybrid forms that should not be possible. A robot suit wielding a massive sword, or transformed into a massive cannon, or converted into a flying vehicle. Kirby intuitively understands not just how to pilot advanced technology, but how to modify it on the fly, adapting it to circumstances its creators never anticipated. The final battle against Star Dream demonstrates the full extent of what Kirby can do with the Robobot armor. He modifies it mid-battle, transforming it into a spacecraft capable of faster-than-light travel, equipped with weapons that can damage a sentient planet-sized computer. This is not just using technology. This is improvising with technology at a level that suggests Kirby has an innate understanding of how machines work, how systems function, and how to optimize them for maximum effectiveness. Then there is the Starship, also from planet Robobot, a massive spacecraft that Kirby pilots in the final phase against Star Dream. This is military-grade hardware designed for interstellar combat, and Kirby flies it with the same ease he brings to riding the Warp Star. He navigates through debris fields, dodges planetary-scale attacks, and fires the starship's weapons with perfect accuracy. All of this in his first time piloting such a craft. What we see across all these examples is that Kirby has a natural affinity for weapons and tools of all kinds. Whether they are magical artifacts powered by positive emotion, ancient relics of forgotten civilizations, or cutting-edge technology from advanced societies, Kirby can use them. More than use them. He can master them instantly and often push them beyond their intended capabilities. This suggests that Kirby's copy ability extends beyond just inhaling enemies. It implies a deeper capacity for understanding and integration, a fundamental compatibility with tools and weapons that transcends learning or training. Kirby does not need instruction manuals or practice. He simply picks something up, and it becomes an extension of his will, as natural to use as his own hands. In Kirby's epic Yarn, Kirby is transformed into Yarn and granted the Yarn Whip as his primary weapon. This is not even his normal body, not his natural form, and yet he adapts instantly. He learns to use the whip, to transform it into various shapes, to manipulate the fabric of the yarn world around him. When your body is changed into something completely different, made of thread instead of flesh, and you can still fight effectively within minutes, that speaks to an adaptability that goes beyond mere skill. The various special transformations Kirby undergoes also qualify as weapons in their own right. Hypernova. Kirby, with the ability to inhale entire trains and energy beams. Robobot armor. Kirby, piloting a mechanized suit. The Warp Star itself, which Kirby uses as both vehicle and projectile weapon. Even Mouthful mode from Kirby and the Forgotten Land, where Kirby's body becomes the weapon by encompassing and operating objects like cars and vending machines. Each of these transformations grants Kirby capabilities far beyond his baseline, and he adapts to them all without hesitation. There is never a moment where Kirby seems confused by his new form or uncertain how to proceed. He simply is the new thing, operates as the new thing, and uses the new capabilities as if he had possessed them all along. The Dragoon from Kirby Air Ride is worth mentioning, a legendary machine that, when assembled, transforms into a powerful attack capable of annihilating opponents. In Super Smash Bros., this is represented as a single devastating attack that crosses the screen in an instant. The Dragoon is treated as the ultimate prize in Air Ride, the thing everyone seeks, and Kirby can use it just like any other vehicle. What becomes clear when we survey Kirby's arsenal is that he is not limited by the weapons available to him. Give Kirby a stick, and he will find a way to save the world with it. Give him a reality-warping artifact, and he will use it just as effectively. The power is not in the weapon. The power is in Kirby, in his ability to take any tool and maximize its potential. This makes him fundamentally different from heroes who are defined by their signature weapons. Link has the Master Sword, and while he is formidable with other weapons, the Master Sword is intrinsic to his legend. Samus has her power suit, and without it, she is significantly diminished. Mario has his jumps and his various power-ups, but they come from external sources. He must find them, and they are temporary. Kirby, though. Kirby has everything and nothing. He has whatever he needs when he needs it, and he is no less himself when wielding a cosmic artifact than when simply relying on his natural abilities. The weapons empower him, certainly, but they do not define him. He defines them, shapes them to his purpose, and discards them when they are no longer necessary. This is the mark of true power, not needing any specific tool to be effective, but being able to use any tool to its maximum potential. Kirby is not a warrior waiting for the right weapon. He is a warrior who makes every weapon the right weapon simply by wielding it. And when the artifacts are set aside, when the Ultra Swords and Robobot armors and Star Rods are returned to their resting places, Kirby remains pink, round, cheerful, and still every bit as capable of facing down cosmic threats as he was when fully armed. The weapons are impressive, but Kirby would be impressive without them. The weapons simply let him be impressive faster. Kirby's power is not isolated. He does not stand alone against the darkness, and this is not a weakness. It is another dimension of his strength. For Kirby has gathered around him a collection of allies, friends, and sometimes reformed enemies whose combined capabilities rival any superhero team in gaming. These relationships, these bonds of friendship and trust, are themselves a form of power that Kirby wields as naturally as any copied ability. Let us begin with Meta Knight, the mysterious sword-wielding warrior who serves as mentor, rival, and occasional antagonist to Kirby. Meta Knight is, in many ways, what Kirby might become if circumstances were different: a skilled warrior, experienced and tactical, carrying the weight of knowledge that Kirby's innocence allows him to avoid. Meta Knight is no pushover. He has his own legendary weapon, Galaxia, a sword with power rivaling any artifact in the Kirby universe. He commands the battleship Halberd, a flying fortress equipped with weaponry capable of threatening entire regions. His skill with a blade is unmatched, his strategic thinking is superb, and his dedication to protecting the innocent is absolute, even if his methods sometimes put him at odds with others. The relationship between Meta Knight and Kirby is complex and layered. In Kirby's Adventure and Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland, Meta Knight initially opposes Kirby's quest to restore the Star Rod, knowing that doing so will free Nightmare. He tests Kirby repeatedly, and only when Kirby proves unstoppable does Meta Knight allow him to proceed, then assists in the final battle. This suggests that Meta Knight knew all along what needed to be done, but needed to ensure Kirby was strong enough to handle the truth. In Kirby Superstar's Revenge of Meta Knight storyline, Meta Knight attempts to conquer Dreamland, believing that its citizens have grown lazy and complacent, and that only through hardship will they become strong enough to defend themselves. Kirby opposes this plan, eventually destroying the Halberd and stopping Meta Knight's attempted coup. But even in defeat, Meta Knight's concern was legitimate. He saw a weakness in Dreamland and sought to address it, even if his methods were extreme. What makes Meta Knight such an important ally is that he represents the complement to Kirby's nature. Where Kirby is innocent, Meta Knight is worldly. Where Kirby is trusting, Meta Knight is cautious. Where Kirby faces threats with cheerful determination, Meta Knight approaches them with tactical precision. Together, they cover each other's weaknesses. Kirby's raw power and adaptability combined with Meta Knight's experience and strategic thinking creates a partnership that has saved Popstar on multiple occasions. Meta Knight's own power is substantial. In Kirby, Planet Robobot, we learn that he fought against Stardream and the Haltman Works Company alone, attempting to stop the mechanization of Popstar before Kirby even became involved. He failed, captured, and partially mechanized into Mecha Knight, but the fact that he engaged in this fight at all demonstrates his courage and capability. When Kirby frees him, Meta Knight immediately joins the battle against Stardream, fighting alongside Kirby in the climactic confrontation. Then there is King Dedede, a character who began as Kirby's primary antagonist and has gradually evolved into a reluctant ally and eventually a true friend. Dedede is the self-proclaimed king of Dreamland, a penguin of massive size and ego, who often finds himself on the wrong side of conflicts, either through greed, pride, or being possessed by dark forces. Despite his flaws, Dedede has proven himself a capable warrior and, more importantly, someone willing to set aside his rivalry with Kirby when greater threats emerge. In Kirby's adventure, Dedede broke the Star Rod specifically to keep Nightmare sealed, taking on the role of villain to prevent a greater evil, a thankless task that Kirby only understood after the truth was revealed. This establishes that Dedede, for all his bluster and selfishness, genuinely cares about Dreamland and will sacrifice his reputation to protect it. Dedede's strength is considerable. He wields an enormous hammer with enough force to create shockwaves, can inhale like Kirby, though not as effectively, and has durability that allows him to survive battles that would flatten lesser beings. In many games, Dedede serves as a challenging boss fight, demonstrating combat prowess that rivals Kirby's own. The fact that Kirby consistently defeats him does not diminish Dedede's capability. It simply shows that Kirby is on another level entirely. The evolution of the Kirby-Dedede relationship is one of the series' most endearing elements. From bitter enemies to grudging rivals to genuine allies, the two have developed a bond based on mutual respect and shared experiences. Dedede has been possessed by dark matter, corrupted by the dimension mirror, controlled by dark forces numerous times, and Kirby has rescued him each time, never holding Dedede's antagonistic history against him. In Kirby Star Allies, Dedede is one of the first characters Kirby befriends with the friend heart, immediately adding him to the team. In the climactic battle against Void Termina, Dedede fights alongside Kirby, combining their strengths to defeat a threat neither could face alone. The king who once stole food from his own kingdom has become a hero in his own right, defending that kingdom alongside its true protector. Bandana Waddle Dee represents perhaps the most remarkable evolution of all Kirby's allies. Waddle Dees are the most common enemy in the Kirby series. Simple creatures that serve King Dedede, rarely pose any real threat, and are generally treated as the cannon fodder of Dreamland. Bandana Waddle Dee begins as one of these simple creatures, distinguished only by the blue bandana he wears. But through loyalty, courage, and repeated exposure to Kirby's adventures, Bandana Dee has transformed from a lowly minion into one of Kirby's most trusted companions. He wields a spear with skill that rivals trained warriors, demonstrates courage by standing beside Kirby against threats that terrify beings far more powerful, and has earned his place through sheer determination and heart. The fact that an ordinary Waddle Dee can become a hero simply through association with Kirby says something profound about Kirby's influence. He does not just fight alongside allies, he elevates them, inspires them, helps them become the best versions of themselves. Bandana Dee's transformation from generic enemy to named hero is testament to this uplifting influence. In Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Bandana Dee is captured along with other Waddle Dees, and part of Kirby's quest involves rescuing them. These Waddle Dees are not powerful warriors, they are simple creatures who need protection, and Kirby provides it without question, fighting through an entire abandoned civilization to save them. The game demonstrates that Kirby's power is not just used for cosmic battles, it is also used for simple acts of kindness, for ensuring that even the weakest inhabitants of Dreamland are safe and cared for. Other allies appear throughout the series, each bringing unique capabilities. Ribbon from Kirby 64. The Crystal Shards is a fairy from Ripple Star who aids Kirby in his quest to defeat dark matter and restore the crystal. Prince Fluff from Kirby's Epic Yarn is the hero of Patchland, who fights alongside Kirby when their worlds are merged. Elfilin from Kirby and the Forgotten Land is a gentle creature who provides guidance and support throughout Kirby's journey through the abandoned world. The Animal Friends from Kirby's Dreamland. 2 and 3, Rick the hamster, Kiney the fish, Coo the owl, and others, demonstrate Kirby's ability to cooperate with creatures of all types. Each animal friend grants Kirby modified abilities when they work together, creating combination attacks that neither could perform alone. This collaborative approach to problem-solving appears repeatedly throughout the series. In Kirby Star Allies, the friend system is taken to its logical extreme. Kirby can befriend nearly any enemy with the friend heart, turning former foes into allies instantly. This includes characters who were once major antagonists: Marx, Magalore, Taranza, Susie from Planet Robobot. All of them can be recruited, redeemed, and integrated into Kirby's team. The game's ultimate message is that friendship is not just a nice sentiment, but a genuine form of power. The friend abilities that Kirby can perform with his allies, combining elements, creating massive attacks, supporting each other in battle, demonstrate that cooperation multiplies strength rather than simply adding it. 4 friends fighting together are more than 4 times as strong as one friend fighting alone. This theme of cooperative power reaches its peak in the battle against Void Termina. Kirby and his friends combine their strength, literally merging their abilities into friend star attacks that can damage a being of primordial chaos. The friend circle, the friend star, the star allies sparkler, all of these are manifestations of combined will, proof that friendship is a force that can challenge even the oldest and most powerful entities in existence. What we learn from examining Kirby's allies is that his power is not diminished by accepting help, it is amplified. Where some heroes insist on facing threats alone, proving their individual strength, Kirby has never hesitated to accept aid from friends. He does not see this as weakness, but as common sense. Why face evil alone when you can face it together? And his allies, in turn, are willing to follow him into impossible situations because Kirby has earned that trust. He has saved each of them, helped them, stood by them when they needed support. Meta Knight respects Kirby's strength and purity. Dedede has learned that Kirby is a worthy rival who fights for the right reasons. Bandana Dee has seen firsthand what courage and kindness can accomplish. The company Kirby keeps is itself evidence of his character. He befriends his enemies, allies with former rivals, and treats even the weakest creatures with respect and kindness. He builds communities wherever he goes, creating bonds that last beyond individual adventures. His friends are not sidekicks or henchmen. They are partners, equals in their own way, each contributing what they can to the shared goal of protecting Dreamland and beyond. In a universe that sometimes feels dominated by lone warriors and isolated heroes, Kirby offers a different model. The hero who builds teams, who creates alliances, who understands that the strongest defense is not one mighty warrior, but a community of friends willing to stand together. This is power of a different sort: social power, emotional power, the strength that comes from knowing you are not alone. And when Kirby faces the void, when he stands against entities that seek to erase existence, he does not stand alone. He stands with friends, with allies, with a community that believes in him and in each other. And that community, bound together by Kirby's gentle influence, has proven capable of achieving things no single hero ever could. We must now turn our attention to an unsettling subject, one that reveals dimensions of Kirby's nature that are easy to overlook in the bright, cheerful atmosphere of most games. We must discuss the shadow versions of Kirby, the dark reflections, the variants that show us what Kirby might become if circumstances were different, if the light inside him were to dim or be corrupted. The existence of these shadow Kirbys is, in itself, significant. In most fictional universes, dark versions of heroes are created through corruption, through giving in to negative emotions, or being twisted by external forces. But the Kirby variants suggest something different. They suggest that darkness and light are closer than we might think, that the line between Kirby and his shadow counterparts is thinner than comfortable. Shadow Kirby first appears in Kirby and The Amazing Mirror, a game centered around the Dimension Mirror and the parallel universe it connects to. The mirror world is described as a reflection of Kirby's world, and Shadow Kirby is its native inhabitant, a Kirby-like being who initially seems antagonistic but is eventually revealed to be protecting the mirror world from invaders, including the fractured Kirbys from the main world, who he initially perceives as threats. Shadow Kirby is visually similar to regular Kirby, but with a darker color palette and a more aggressive demeanor. He can use the same abilities as Kirby, fight with the same techniques, but there is something slightly off about him, a sense of desperation or loneliness that colors his actions. When the truth is revealed, we learn that Shadow Kirby is not evil, but protective, defending his world from what he sees as invasion. This establishes an important precedent. A Kirby-like being, given different circumstances and pressures, will still fundamentally try to protect and preserve. Even in the mirror world, even with a darker disposition, the essential nature of Kirby, defending the innocent, standing against threats, remains constant. Shadow Kirby is not a villain, but a hero of his own realm, doing his best with imperfect information. Dark Meta Knight, who also appears in The Amazing Mirror, is more troubling. This is a version of Meta Knight from the mirror world who has been corrupted, becoming a villain who seeks to conquer both the mirror world and Kirby's reality. Dark Meta Knight splits Kirby into 4 copies at the beginning of the game, fights against him multiple times, and serves the main antagonist, Dark Mind. Dark Meta Knight demonstrates what Meta Knight might become if his desire for control and perfection were not tempered by his fundamental goodness. He is skilled, dangerous, and utterly without mercy. Everything Meta Knight tries not to be, even as he walks the line between hero and anti-hero. The existence of Dark Meta Knight suggests that the potential for darkness exists in everyone, even in the most noble warriors, and that circumstances and choices determine which path is taken. The Dimension. Mirror itself is worth discussing. This artifact has the power to grant wishes, but often corrupts those wishes, giving people what they want in ways that harm them. It has been the source of multiple crises across the Kirby series, suggesting that even wishes, even desires for good things, can become dangerous when filtered through a mechanism that reflects and distorts. When we consider the mirror world and its inhabitants, we see a realm that is almost like Kirby's world, but not quite, slightly darker, slightly more dangerous, a place where heroes must be more aggressive to survive. It is a reminder that context shapes behavior, that even fundamentally good beings can be pushed toward darker methods by circumstances beyond their control. Then there is dark matter itself, the recurring antagonist that represents perhaps the truest dark reflection of Kirby. We discussed dark matter earlier in the context of Kirby's victories, but it is worth revisiting here with a specific focus. Dark matter may be Kirby's opposite, his mirror, the dark where he is light. Dark matter is described as an entity that exists in spaces between matter, that spreads by consuming and corrupting, that seeks to absorb all existence into itself. It is lonely, wounded, and spreads its pain to everything it touches. Zero, the core of dark matter, is depicted as a massive bleeding eye, an image of unending agony, of damage that cannot heal. If the theory connecting Kirby to Void Termina is correct, then dark matter represents what Kirby might have become if influenced by negative emotion instead of positive. Same origin, same potential, but shaped by pain instead of joy, by isolation instead of friendship, by despair instead of hope. Dark matter is not just Kirby's enemy. It is his warning, his shadow, the path not taken. The visual similarity between Kirby and Zero is unsettling when you notice it. Both are primarily spherical. Both have simple, expressive faces. Kirby's cheerful and kind, Zero's agonized and bleeding. But the basic structure is the same. Both have tremendous power that seems to exceed their physical form. Both are, in some sense, eternal. Kirby through his endurance and refusal to be changed. Zero through its continuous rebirth and spreading infection. What separates them? Friendship, connection, joy. Kirby has these things, and they make him strong. Zero lacks them, and the absence has made it into something monstrous. It is a simple difference, but a total one. Everything that Kirby is stems from choosing connection over isolation, light over darkness, hope over despair. In Kirby Fighters Deluxe and Kirby Fighters 2, we encounter clone Kirbys, copies of Kirby created for battle who challenge the original. These clones have all of Kirby's abilities, but lack his personality, his warmth, his essential Kirbiness. They are Kirby's power without his heart, and while they are formidable opponents, they ultimately lack the creativity and determination that makes Kirby truly special. The final boss of Kirby Fighters 2 is a dark entity called Wicked Waning Crescent, which later reveals itself connected to King Dedede's shadow. This boss creates clones and shadows, manipulating copies of Kirby and Dedede to fight against the originals. Once again, we see the theme. Creating copies of Kirby is possible, but those copies will always lack something essential, some spark that cannot be replicated through mere duplication of form and ability. This suggests that Kirby's true power is not just physical or even metaphysical. It is spiritual, emotional, the product of his specific nature and experiences. You cannot create a Kirby simply by copying his appearance and abilities. The copies will fight, will use the same moves, will even be dangerous. But they will not be Kirby because being Kirby is about more than what you can do. It is about who you are. The recurring appearance of dark versions and evil copies throughout the series creates a subtle background anxiety to the Kirby games. Yes, the atmosphere is generally cheerful and bright, but we are constantly reminded that darkness exists, that it presses in from the margins, that the potential for corruption is always present. Every mirror might hide a dark reflection. Every shadow might gain autonomy and turn hostile. The cheerful world is constantly under threat from its own opposite. And yet, Kirby prevails. Every time he faces a dark version of himself or his friends, he overcomes it. Not by becoming dark himself, not by meeting darkness on its own terms, but by remaining steadfastly light. He defeats his dark reflections by being so completely himself that the shadows cannot find purchase, cannot corrupt what is fundamentally incorruptible. This is perhaps the most impressive demonstration of Kirby's power. Not that he can defeat dark versions of himself, though that is impressive, but that he can do so without becoming dark himself. He is exposed to corruption repeatedly, faces entities that exist to spread despair and pain, battles literal manifestations of negative emotion, and none of it changes him. None of it dims his light or sours his joy or makes him doubt that kindness is strength. In stories about corruption, the hero often must resist temptation, must actively fight against the pull toward darkness. But Kirby shows no sign of struggle. Temptation does not seem to touch him. The darkness sees him and simply slides off, unable to find any crack or weakness through which to seep. Kirby is not resisting corruption so much as he is simply immune to it, his nature too fundamentally positive for darkness to alter. This immunity is itself a superpower. In a universe where possession and corruption are constant threats, where dark forces can take over even the strongest warriors, Kirby stands untouchable. Dark matter has possessed King Dedede, Meta Knight, and countless others. The Dimension Mirror has corrupted entire kingdoms. Star Dream mechanized an entire planet, and Kirby walks through all of it unchanged, uninfected, as pure at the end as he was at the beginning. The shadow variants of Kirby are not weaknesses in the series' lore. They are proof of strength. They demonstrate that even when faced with dark reflections, with opposite forces, with versions of himself gone wrong, Kirby remains Kirby. They test him in ways that physical battles cannot, challenging not his strength but his essential nature. And every time, his nature proves unshakable. This is the power that matters most when facing existential threats, not the power to destroy enemies, but the power to remain yourself while doing so, to stand in the heart of darkness and continue carrying light, to face the void and refuse to let it make you void in turn. Kirby and his shadows are two sides of a coin, but the coin always lands face up. The darkness exists, it is real, it is powerful. But the light is more powerful still, and Kirby is that light, constant and pure, shining gently but unstoppably into every shadow until even the darkest corners of the universe must admit defeat. Now comes the task of comparison, of placing Kirby alongside other Nintendo heroes and assessing relative capabilities. This is always a delicate operation. Fans are passionate about their favorites, and power scaling between different fictional universes invites arguments that can never be definitively resolved. But we can approach this thoughtfully, examining what each character has canonically accomplished and what those accomplishments suggest about their fundamental capabilities. Let us begin with Mario, Nintendo's most famous mascot and the face of the company for decades. Mario is an extraordinary hero whose adventures have taken him across kingdoms, galaxies, and even through time. In Super Mario Galaxy, he travels through space, visiting various planets and eventually reaching the center of the universe to confront Bowser. In Super Mario Odyssey, he captures beings with his hat and uses their abilities, showing a versatility reminiscent of Kirby's copy ability. Mario's strength is considerable. He can shatter bricks with his fists, stomp through stone blocks, and leap dozens of times his own height. His durability allows him to survive falls from great heights, exposure to lava, briefly, and impacts that would pulverize normal beings. His persistence is legendary. He never gives up, never stops trying to save Princess Peach or the Mushroom Kingdom. But when we compare Mario's canonical accomplishments to Kirby's, a difference in scale becomes apparent. Mario has saved kingdoms, galaxies even. Kirby has saved reality itself multiple times. Mario fights Bowser, a powerful dragon turtle with magic and armies. Kirby fights primordial chaos, sentient planets, and entities that existed before matter itself. Mario's power-ups are temporary and external. He finds mushrooms, flowers, and stars that grant him abilities, but these abilities fade over time or after taking damage. Kirby's copy abilities are internal and limitless. He creates them through absorption and can switch between them at will. Mario needs to find his power-ups. Kirby makes his own. This is not to diminish Mario. He is one of gaming's greatest heroes, and his accomplishments are genuinely impressive. But in a direct comparison of raw power and scale of victories, Kirby operates on a different level. Link from the Legend of Zelda series represents another fascinating comparison. Link is a legendary hero who reincarnates across multiple timelines, wielding the Master Sword and Triforce of Courage. He has defeated Ganon in countless forms, saved Hyrule more times than can be counted, and demonstrated skill with a vast array of weapons and tools. Link's connection to divine power through the Triforce gives him capabilities that approach the supernatural. He can manipulate time, transform into different forms, summon divine beasts, and wield weapons blessed by goddesses. His strategic thinking and puzzle-solving abilities are exceptional. Link does not just fight his way through challenges, he thinks his way through them. In terms of direct combat skill, Link might actually equal or exceed Kirby. Link is trained in warfare, an expert swordsman, an accomplished archer. He approaches battles tactically, using the right tool for each situation. Kirby's combat style is more instinctive, more reactive, relying on adaptation rather than strategy. But again, when we look at scale, the comparison shifts. Link saves Hyrule, a kingdom, or perhaps a continent. Kirby saves Popstar, a planet, and often saves multiple planets or dimensions in a single adventure. Link fights embodiments of evil and malice. Kirby fights the conceptual origins of negativity itself. The Triforce of Courage grants Link remarkable protection and power, but it is still limited to one timeline, one iteration of reality. Kirby seems to exist beyond such limitations. There is only one Kirby, eternal and unchanging, while Links come and go across the ages. Samus Aran from the Metroid series is perhaps the closest to Kirby in terms of cosmic-scale threats. Samus regularly fights space pirates, destroys parasitic life forms that threaten the galaxy, and has blown up multiple planets harboring existential dangers. Her power suit grants her abilities comparable to a walking military installation, missiles, beams, shields, and mobility systems that make her a one-woman army. Samus operates alone, infiltrating hostile environments and dismantling threats from within. Her tactical acumen is exceptional, her determination unbreakable, and her willingness to sacrifice everything for the mission has been demonstrated repeatedly. In terms of raw firepower, Samus might actually exceed Kirby. Her weapons are designed for planetary-scale destruction, after all. But Samus is bound by her equipment. Without her power suit, she is still a highly capable soldier, but she loses much of what makes her able to face cosmic threats. Her power is technological, accumulated through collection of upgrades and equipment. Kirby's power is innate, requiring nothing external to be effective. Moreover, Samus's victories, while impressive, are generally military in nature. She destroys enemy installations, eliminates parasitic threats, prevents invasions. These are concrete, physical goals. Kirby's victories often involve more abstract threats: corruption of dreams, infection of matter, mechanization of existence, return to primordial void. Samus fights what is there. Kirby fights what might replace what is there. Pokemon trainers could be considered among Nintendo's most powerful characters, given that they command creatures capable of creating continents, controlling time and space, and embodying fundamental forces of nature. A trainer with legendary Pokemon like Dialga, Palkia, or Arceus could theoretically command power rivaling or exceeding anything Kirby has faced. But there is a crucial difference. The trainer's power is external and dependent. Take away the Pokemon, and the trainer is simply a human. The Pokemon themselves are powerful, yes, but they are separate beings with their own wills, requiring trust and relationship to command effectively. Kirby's power is his own, inseparable from his being. Furthermore, legendary Pokemon, while powerful, exist within a specific cosmological framework. They are bound by rules, types, moves, stats. Kirby appears to exist beyond such frameworks, able to adapt to any rule system he encounters and find ways to succeed within it. Characters from Fire Emblem, whether wielding legendary weapons or possessed of divine blood, operate at a more grounded scale. They are heroes of kingdoms and continents, not planets and dimensions. Their power is impressive within their context, but does not translate to the cosmic level where Kirby operates. Rosalina from Super Mario Galaxy presents an interesting case. She is a cosmic entity who watches over galaxies, commands a mobile star observatory, and has existed for eons. Her power is vast and ancient, her knowledge extensive, her role in the universe fundamental. When the universe was reset at the end of Super Mario Galaxy, Rosalina was there to oversee it, suggesting she exists on a level beyond normal beings. In a sense, Rosalina might be one of the few Nintendo characters who operates at Kirby's level of cosmic significance. She is a guardian of existence, just as Kirby is. She maintains balance in the universe, just as Kirby preserves it against threats. She is ancient and powerful, beyond normal comprehension. But here is the difference. Rosalina's role is observational and preservational. She maintains and watches. Kirby's role is active and confrontational. He fights. When threats arise, Rosalina might observe them, guide heroes against them, work within the cosmic framework to maintain balance. Kirby inhales them, copies their abilities, and punches them until they stop being threats. Rosalina's power is vast but passive, working through cosmic mechanisms and grand scales. Kirby's power is personal and direct, working through individual action and immediate intervention. Both are protecting the universe, but Kirby is doing so one cosmic horror at a time, face to face, in direct combat. Pit from Kid Icarus has divine support and access to a vast arsenal of weapons, but he requires that support. Without the blessings of Palutena, he cannot even fly for extended periods. His power is borrowed and contingent. Kirby's power is intrinsic and unconditional. When we survey the full catalog of Nintendo heroes, a pattern emerges. Most of them are powerful within their specific contexts, defending their homes and kingdoms against appropriate threats. They are heroes of place and time, tied to their specific narratives and worlds. Kirby is different. Kirby is a hero of existence itself, defending not a place but the possibility of place, not a time but the continuation of time. His battles are not for territory or kingdoms, but for whether anything gets to exist at all. His enemies are not villains seeking power or control, but forces of annihilation seeking to erase the distinction between existence and void. This places Kirby in a unique category, not stronger than all other Nintendo characters in every possible way, but operating at a scale of conflict that most others never approach. He is not the most skilled warrior. Link might exceed him there. He is not the most heavily armed. Samus wins that comparison. He is not the most magically powerful. Many Zelda or Fire Emblem characters command impressive magic. But Kirby faces threats that would end the worlds those other heroes protect. He wins battles that would erase the stages where their conflicts take place. He defeats enemies that would make their villains look like minor obstacles. And he does all of this while remaining fundamentally kind, cheerful, and innocent. In a tournament of Nintendo characters, the outcome would depend on rules and context. But in the more important contest, who has saved existence the most times, who has faced the gravest threats, who has proven capable of standing against oblivion itself, Kirby has few peers and perhaps no superiors. He is not invincible. He can be hurt, can be beaten, can fail at specific tasks. But in the grand accounting, in the total sum of accomplishments and victories, Kirby's record speaks for itself. He has done what others cannot. He has faced what others would not survive. He has won battles that should have been unwinnable. And he has done it all while being 8 inches tall, round and pink, with a smile on his face and room in his stomach for one more slice of cake. The other Nintendo heroes are mighty. Kirby is mythological. We must now wade into the deepest waters of Kirby lore, the theories and implications that emerge when we compile all available evidence and ask the fundamental question: what is Kirby really? Not what does he do or where does he come from, but what is the essential nature of this being who looks like a child's toy but defeats cosmic horrors? The most compelling theory, one that draws heavily from canonical evidence in recent games, relates to Void Termina and the nature of primordial existence. Let us examine this carefully, for it touches on profound questions about Kirby's origin and nature. Void Termina appears in Kirby Star Allies as the ultimate antagonist, described in pause screen lore as the origin and end of all existence, a being of chaos that existed before creation took form. When defeated, Void assumes a form remarkably similar to Kirby, round, pink, with a simple face. The pause screen descriptions, particularly in the original Japanese text, which provides more detail than the English translation, heavily suggest that Void could become anything depending on the emotions and energy that influenced it, and that different manifestations of Void exist across the universe. The Japanese text describes Void as being born as the origin of all chaotic possibilities, being matters of dream, dark, soul, or heart. It states that when Void is destroyed after being summoned by either positive or negative energy, it can incarnate as a new, very powerful existence that acts as a pure incarnation of the type of energy used. The wording used in these descriptions appears to point toward the possibility, though it never explicitly confirms, that members of Kirby's species, as well as Zero and Dark Matter, could be such incarnations. This interpretation elegantly accounts for numerous patterns observed in Kirby lore. It would explain why Kirby and Dark Matter share certain structural similarities, both spherical, both possessing simple faces, both wielding tremendous power that seems to exceed their physical forms. They could be expressions of the same fundamental entity, shaped by opposite emotional influences. It would explain Kirby's seemingly impossible capabilities, his infinite stomach, his limitless adaptability, his apparent immunity to corruption. If Kirby represents a manifestation of primordial chaos that chose, or was shaped into, creation rather than destruction, then he would possess the fundamental flexibility of chaos while directing it toward constructive ends. He can become anything because, in a sense, he already contains the potential for anything, just waiting to express it. It would explain why Kirby seems incapable of being truly corrupted. He would not be resisting darkness so much as representing the positive alternative to darkness, and the two cannot coexist in the same space by their very nature. Asking if Kirby could become evil under this interpretation would be like asking if light could become darkness. It represents a fundamental category error. Kirby would be defined by being what he is, and what he is specifically excludes darkness. This interpretation also helps us understand the profound loneliness we sense in Kirby's enemies. Zero bleeds, weeps, spreads its pain across the universe. Dark Matter seeks to absorb and consume, to make everything part of itself because it cannot bear the isolation of being separate. Void. Termina is worshipped as a god, but described as empty, hollow, a vessel for others' desires rather than a being with desires of its own. If these entities represent expressions of void shaped by negative emotion, then they would be fundamentally beings of loneliness, existing in pain and seeking to either spread that pain or end it through absorption of all other existence. They would be tragic in a sense, not evil by conscious choice, but shaped into darkness by circumstances before they were fully formed. Kirby, then, would represent the opposite possibility. Shaped by positive emotion, by love and friendship and joy, those influences would have made him into something beautiful rather than terrible. He would exist in connection rather than isolation, spread happiness rather than pain, preserve existence rather than consume it. This is why Kirby's friendships matter so deeply. They would not just be character development or gameplay mechanics, but proof of his nature, evidence that he is the positive manifestation. Every friend Kirby makes, every bond he forms, would reinforce what he is and push back against what he could have been. When Kirby defeats Void Termina under this reading, he would not simply be winning a battle. He would be demonstrating that positive emotion is stronger than negative, that creation can overcome chaos, that existence is better than void. He would be proving, through his actions, that the universe made the right choice in becoming something rather than remaining nothing. But there are other interpretations worth considering, other ways to understand what Kirby might be. Some speculate that Kirby could be an ancient weapon, created by a long-dead civilization to combat threats to reality. The fact that Kirby's copy ability appears unique even among his species, the fact that he arrived mysteriously without clear explanation, the fact that he immediately begins defending Popstar as if it were instinctive. All of this could potentially support the idea that Kirby is a weapon who has forgotten or never knew his original purpose. Under this interpretation, Kirby's innocence could be either a carefully designed feature, a weapon that cannot be corrupted because it does not understand corruption, or it could result from amnesia or incomplete activation. Perhaps Kirby was supposed to have memories, training, understanding of his purpose, but something went wrong during his creation or arrival, and he woke up on Popstar as a blank slate. This would account for his immediate proficiency with weapons and tools. He could have been designed to use them. It would account for his combat instincts. He could have been built for battle. It would account for his durability and power. He could be not a natural being, but an artificial one, engineered to survive anything and defeat everything. However, this interpretation has notable weaknesses. Weapons do not typically make friends or show preference for peaceful solutions. Weapons do not laugh, do not enjoy food for its taste rather than as fuel, do not take naps in the afternoon sun because it feels nice. If Kirby is a weapon, he appears to have thoroughly transcended his purpose, becoming a person rather than a tool. Another theory suggests that Kirby could be a manifestation of Popstar itself, or perhaps of the Fountain of Dreams, an avatar of the collective unconscious, given form to protect the source from which he emerged. This would help explain his deep connection to Dreamland, his immediate willingness to protect it, and his effectiveness against threats that target dreams and consciousness. Under this reading, Kirby would not be an individual in the traditional sense, but rather an expression of Popstar's will to survive, taking form whenever the planet is threatened. This interpretation carries poetic resonance and would align with the dreamlike, fluid nature of Kirby's world. However, it struggles to account for why Kirby exists as a consistent individual with apparent memories and relationships that persist across adventures, suggesting continuity of consciousness rather than spontaneous manifestation. Perhaps the simplest theory, and in some ways the most satisfying, is that Kirby is exactly what he appears to be, a child of his species, young and innocent, who happens to possess remarkable power because that is simply what his species is capable of when fully realized. Meta Knight demonstrates similar capabilities, suggesting that Kirby is not unique in kind, only in degree. He is what his species can become when natural talent meets necessity. Under this theory, Kirby's species are natural defenders, drawn to protect and preserve, gifted with abilities specifically suited for confronting existential threats. Perhaps they evolved in a hostile universe, one where cosmic horrors are common and survival required developing the power to face such threats. Kirby is simply a particularly gifted member of this species, doing what his kind has always done. This theory has the virtue of simplicity and aligns with what we observe. Kirby acts like a child because he is one. He makes friends because that is his nature. He protects because that is what his species does. No grand conspiracy, no ancient weapon, no manifestation of cosmic forces. Just Kirby, being Kirby, which happens to be enough to save reality on a regular basis. What all these theories share is an acknowledgement that Kirby is not ordinary, that there is something fundamental about his nature that transcends normal explanation. Whether he is a positive manifestation of primordial chaos, an ancient weapon, an avatar of pop star, or simply a remarkable member of a remarkable species, the conclusion is the same. Kirby possesses power that operates on cosmic scales, and that power is intrinsic to what he is. The beauty of Kirby's lore is that it remains open enough to support multiple interpretations while providing enough evidence that each theory feels plausible. The games give us pieces of the puzzle, but never force them together into a single, complete picture. This allows each player to interpret Kirby's nature according to their own understanding, creating space for wonder and speculation. What we can say with confidence is that Kirby is ancient or eternal in some sense, that his power predates his apparent youth, that he represents something fundamental about the balance between creation and destruction, existence and void, light and darkness. He is positioned at the center of cosmic conflicts, not by accident, but because his nature makes him the natural opponent to forces that seek to unmake reality. And perhaps most importantly, regardless of which theory proves correct, the outcome is the same. Kirby is kind. Whatever he is made of, whatever purpose shaped his existence, whatever cosmic role he serves, he is gentle, cheerful, loving, and devoted to protecting others. The power serves the person, not the other way around. If Kirby is a weapon, he is a weapon that loves. If he is primordial chaos, he is chaos that chose kindness. If he is an avatar, he is an avatar with genuine affection for what he represents. If he is simply a child, he is a child with a heart large enough to hold the entire universe. The lore implications suggest that Kirby is more than he appears, but they also confirm that Kirby is exactly what he appears, a small, pink, kind creature who will not allow existence to end while he has the power to prevent it. And he has the power. Oh, does he have the power? As we reach the end of our journey through Kirby's lore, as we prepare to emerge from this exploration and return to the waking world, let us reflect on what we have discovered. We set out to examine whether Kirby might be the most powerful being in Nintendo history, and the evidence we have assembled speaks with quiet certainty. Kirby has defeated gods and primordial forces. He has saved reality itself on multiple occasions. He possesses abilities that defy physics, logic, and reasonable expectation. He can adapt to any situation, overcome any obstacle, and survive anything that attempts to destroy him. His power operates on scales that most heroes never approach, and his victories are against threats that would end the worlds his peers protect. But more than this raw power, more than the impressive catalog of cosmic-level victories, what makes Kirby truly remarkable is the gentleness with which he wields that power. He is not a tyrant, not a conqueror, not even particularly interested in being recognized as powerful. He is simply Kirby. Kind, cheerful, friendly, always ready to help. This is the paradox we have been circling throughout this exploration. Kirby is simultaneously one of the most powerful beings in all of gaming and one of the kindest. These qualities do not exist in tension within him. They complement each other, creating something unique and beautiful. His power serves his kindness. His kindness directs his power. Neither diminishes the other. Both are essential to what he is. In a medium often dominated by power fantasies, where strength is conflated with grimness and heroes grow dark as they grow capable, Kirby offers a different vision. He suggests that power and innocence can coexist, that you need not lose your gentleness to gain strength, that the mightiest protector can also be the friendliest companion. Think about the worlds Kirby has saved, not just Popstar, but Ripple Star, Floralia, the Forgotten Land, countless dimensions and realities. Each of these places continues to exist, continues to live and breathe and dream, because Kirby cared enough to defend them. Not for glory or reward, not because he seeks recognition or power, but simply because it was the right thing to do, because his friends needed help, because someone had to stand against the darkness, and he happened to be there. This is heroism in its purest form. Action taken not from ambition, but from compassion, not from duty, but from genuine care. Kirby saves the universe regularly, and then returns home for a nap and a slice of cake. The cosmic and the domestic exist side by side in his life, neither diminishing the other. We have traced Kirby's path from his mysterious origins to his confrontations with primordial chaos. We have examined his abilities, the copy ability that lets him become anything, the warp star that takes him anywhere, the physical capabilities that let him survive everything. We have cataloged his victories against enemies that sought to corrupt dreams, consume matter, mechanize existence, and return all reality to void. We have looked at his friends and allies, the community he builds wherever he goes, the connections that ground him and multiply his strength. We have considered his shadow variants, the dark reflections that show what he is not, what he refuses to become. We have compared him to other Nintendo heroes and found that, while each excels in their own way, Kirby operates at a scale few can match. We have delved into theories about what Kirby truly is: manifestation of primordial chaos, ancient weapon, avatar of dreams, or simply a remarkable child of a remarkable species. Each theory reveals different facets of his nature, but all confirm the same essential truth. Kirby is powerful beyond normal comprehension, and he uses that power only for good. As we close this exploration, as the night grows deeper and sleep draws near, hold this thought. In universes both real and imagined, we need heroes. We need protectors who stand between us and the darkness that always, always presses in from the edges. We need champions who face down threats we cannot even imagine, who battle forces that seek to erase everything we are and everything we might become. And sometimes, those heroes come in unexpected forms. Sometimes they are not towering warriors or grim avengers, but small, round, pink creatures who float on puffs of air and make friends with everyone they meet. Sometimes the strongest defender is the gentlest soul. Sometimes the last hope for existence itself is someone who would never think of themselves as hope, who simply does what needs doing because that is who they are. Kirby might be the most powerful being Nintendo has ever created. The evidence certainly suggests it, but more importantly, he is the kindest. And in a universe that needs both power and kindness, that combination makes him not just a hero, but something approaching an ideal. Proof that strength and gentleness need not be enemies, that the mightiest can also be the most compassionate, that you can save the world without losing the ability to enjoy it. So, rest now, knowing that somewhere in the cosmos, on a small planet called Popstar, in a region called Dreamland, in a tiny house that barely qualifies as a structure, there sleeps a pink ball who has defeated gods and chaos and the end of all things. He sleeps peacefully, dreaming whatever dreams come to those who protect the dreams of others, and his presence there is a promise that tomorrow, if darkness threatens again, he will wake. He will rise. He will face it with a smile. And the darkness will learn, as it always does, that underestimating Kirby was its final mistake. If you have enjoyed drifting through this story tonight, consider subscribing for more quiet journeys through Nintendo's worlds. Until next time, sleep well, dream gently, And remember, the smallest hero can cast the longest shadow, especially when that shadow is beaten back by a light that refuses to dim. Good night.